What's up, everybody? Clint Esposito here with number 121 of the Two Wheels to Freedom show. This one, as always, is brought to you by the Two Wheels to Freedom Fest. Everybody just go to twowheelstofreedom.com. It's got moto events, road bike events, like biker games, so it's going to be fun for everybody. And now I'm actually super excited about having this next guest on because basically most of my life watching X Games, this guy's been a part of it. He always had a great personality. So welcome to the show, Rick Thorne, the biker in black. What's up, Rick?
Yo, what's up, dude? How you doing, man? I'm good.
Good. How are
Yeah,
you?
yeah, stoked to be here. Good, man. Just jamming as always. I like how you said, X Games because a lot of kids nowadays, I think they know the newer kids don't as much, but X Games came back, right? And I've been trying to get into the X Games to be a host
Yeah.
without
Why are
sounding
you
like
not?
exactly, without trying to sound like that. You don't want to be that old whining guy because you want to be like, but it's like, hey, like you guys are trying to revamp this thing. You're bringing back all these old faces. Well, just for the record, and I'm not just saying this, is like I was the first to do X Games hosting with like Chris Fowler and the people they had come from Stick and Ball Sports with the winter and summer X Games, and then I had my own show, my own radio show with them, and I'm
That's what
over
I
here
was
going,
going to
hey,
say.
hey, like why am I not part of this X Games? Like everyone knows it's man, it's weird. It's a weird thing, when things get passed through different hands and people pick their favorites, I guess. But I'm not giving up. I'm gonna try to be there this summer X Games for sure.
Well, from my, I haven't made anything, but from my view, you're doing the right thing by creating your own brand and hustle as far as, your own podcast and still keeping your name out there to build your
Yeah.
online awareness because ultimately, right, that's the game.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. As far as just like being an athlete or an entertainer or in that world, for acting or comedy or whatever, music, you have to stay relevant, man, because people, especially more nowadays, just forget about things. And like, yeah, in order for you to keep doing what you love to do, I guess the word is reinvent, and you just got to keep staying out there. Because hey, look, like what I did 20 years ago is past. It's great that I did that, but a lot has changed since then, right? So if you don't keep reinventing yourself, then people forget, you know what I mean? Like I forget like who won the Super Bowl 3 years ago. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's
Yeah.
just so much content out there. There's so much fed to people that you have to I don't know, it's kind of common sense, I guess. You just got to stay out there. So thanks,
Think
yeah.
about it, even as you were talking about, content and social media. You follow a ton of people, and they still only populate your feed with a certain percent that you interact with. So if you're
Yeah.
not putting out good content where the people are pumped on it and interacting with it, then you're still kind of, lost in the algorithm.
Yeah, and you know what was weird about I mean, look, last thing I want to do is sound like an old fart complaining about new school because I'm not. You got to change with the times. But I do still think it's kind of funny that someone will watch a cat go "Meow," and get like 200 million views, and then
Wow.
you'll bust your ass doing some trick and get like 500 likes. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
it became the age of like less is more, even for that notoriety of like you didn't really do anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like
Yeah.
from the old school of like you can't fake BMX, dude. You can't fake moto. It's like the proof is in the pudding. You either do it or you don't. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So it got weird like that. You know what I'm saying? But
I
anyways,
agree
whatever.
with you. So
Yeah.
let's take it back. So, like I said, but I agree with you because, just like I said, you were always a personality. I remember not only just the biker and black theme, which was cool, but like
Oh yeah.
you were always very animated, and you were always fun when they interviewed you, which I thought. And then, like you said, you even did some of the hosting. So I'm like, this guy is great. He's perfect for all this type of stuff. Um,
Yeah.
but
It was a lot of fun, man, for sure.
But let's go back and say, so were you always like a little BMX kid, or, right off of the bat, that was your thing?
Yeah. Well, when we grew up, like, uh, I'm 54. So when I grew up in the 80s or late 70s, mid 70s, we would just be out on our bikes doing wheelies and stuff. That was just the thing to do. And riding was a way for me to get out of my house. And, you hear a lot of people say that's just to kind of go, and you can go you could travel far on a bike, blah, blah, blah. Just bike riding was just one of those things where once I started riding, I felt like I was alive. Even as a little kid, I felt like this is what I was supposed to do. And so I just stuck with it. And, as things evolved, things were a lot different back then, especially growing up in the Midwest. Uh, I just stuck with BMX because of the way it made me feel, like the feeling it gave me. Not so much like because back then there was no reward.
Right.
We weren't sponsored. We were just kids in backyards building ramps. But it was more about the camaraderie with your friends. And so to answer your question, I guess long form is, yeah, I always rode bikes, but I always had interest. I remember making a list when I was a kid of things I wanted to be. And it was like bike rider, actor, comedian, musician, entertainer. I remember this list.
Wow.
And now I brought all those to life. But bike riding was first because that was the easiest for me to do an individual thing. And for me it just was my thing. And so applied it into all those other categories of entertainment. So
I tell
yeah,
people
man.
that all the time because my frame of reference, like I played a lot of sports, but then yeah, I just raced a lot, and then I did freestyle motocross. And so my frame of reference of everything is kind of equating it back in some way to moto, and I think people thought it was, I don't know if they thought it was cheesy or they just thought I was trying to brag about riding, but it's like that's my point of reference for almost everything because that's what I was in more than, anything else. And it sounds like you basically explained, this similar scenario for yourself.
Yeah, you're on point, dude. Check it out. Like if I it's like comedy, okay? You go into comedy, every room is different. Every vibe is different. Every crowd is different. Every city's different. Comedy is one of those things where it reminds me as a skate park. Hey, let's go ride this park. I don't like that park. I love this park. You go to a skate park, you either love it or you like it. It's okay. It was all right. That crowd was good. It's the same thing. Hey, you fall riding and you learn to get the trick. You get it and you get it consistent. It's like learning a joke. It's like telling a joke or your style or music. It's the same thing. It's like you parallel that to and compare it to what you've been through when you've been able to be successful at one thing. You apply because it's all the same. In these fields of I think anything actually, it's all parallel. Like if I wanted to be a doctor right now, and or how to say a lawyer or accountant or something, I would go to school and I'd be like, oh yeah, things I need to improve, and I would relate it back to like all the work I did through BMX,
Right.
and it's a parallel motion to go, oh, I want to get that, so I got to do this, or oh, it reminds me of that, so then do this. So yeah, it helps, and I've been very fortunate, and that's why I was able to do different things. It's like not like people go, oh, you do all these different things. I didn't conquer, or not even conquer, but I didn't start doing them all at once. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like one led to the other, led to the other, led to the other. So,
I was going to
you
bring
know,
that up because looking at your profile, I was reading it to my wife and she goes, he does a lot of things. And I'm like, finally, somebody with the same mental disorder I have. Like, like, because she's always like focusing on like one thing right now. So, like, right now, my thing is trying to build the podcast up and make
awesome.
it make
Yeah.
it really good and just get it rolling a little better so that way that'll help me like we were talking about with just the online presence and booking
Yeah. Yeah.
shows and everything else. um
Well, if you
so
make a promo for this, I could promote it on my Instagram and my Facebook and everything because I do that.
okay,
Like, yeah, and I'll promote. I always promote the shows I'm on. But yeah, I hear you, dude.
that'd be
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
So how many years, like I said,
yeah.
growing up, so you're 10 years older than me, I'm 44.
Old ass.
So it was like just enough where for my whole, childhood, you were a professional BMXer. So I just remember, seeing you all the time. How
Yeah, I
many
was pretty.
times did you go to X Games?
I did the first 9.
Okay.
So I competed in the first 9. And so what had happened is X Games came out in 95. By the time and then this big buzz was cracking about like, first it was like hip hop and punk rock, especially punk rock was blowing up then, the Green Day, Offspring, and then like what's next? And then the action sports, well, I'll just say action sports, but it went with the music. And so to go back to the X Games, 95, 96 competed, 97 MTV wanted me to host something for them. And I did, and it was a sports and music festival. And ESPN saw that and said, "Hey, we know you from the X Games. Do you want to host this show for us called X Today and a show called X Tracks, a music show?" And I did that for 5 years for them. So it kind of felt I went from like having nothing and competing in a couple X Games, and all that stuff fell in my lap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and so the first 9 X Games, I just got to the point where I was competing, and I'd been competing so long that I just, lost my drive with competing after 25 years or whatever,
Yeah.
you know? But I don't know why I took that answer there, but I was just saying that, like, yeah, it kinda all, like, I don't know, I guess when I just think about it out loud, in my head, I'm thinking, like, everything just kinda happened at once, you know? Like,
Yeah.
competing when the X Games was one of those things, but imagine if you get handed a TV show, do you stop competing? I didn't, I was doing both at the same time. I don't know anybody that's ever done that,
Yeah.
you know?
I would agree
Yeah,
with
so
that.
yeah, if I wasn't gonna pass it up, I was like, I thought about busting tables again. I was like, I ain't going back.
Yeah. Well, that's what you're like, what am I going to do to make what I'm making now with my skill set here, which is riding bikes? Or
Dude, I
for me,
bust
dirt
tables.
bikes. It's like,
Yeah. What kind of bike did you have? What size bike do you ride?
well, I rode 250s for most of the time of my freestyle career, and then the last like year or two, I rode a 450.
So did we ever do any shows together?
No, because I'm from New Jersey.
Okay.
So I didn't, you guys got enough riders in California. You
Isn't
didn't need
Ronnie
many.
Feist from New Jersey?
Yeah, he is. But he moved to
Yeah.
California.
Yeah. I know him pretty well. And his dad. I mean, I toured with all those guys like Deegan and Hart and
Yeah.
Link Ogle and Twitch and stuff. So yeah, I'm familiar with all those old schoolers. Um,
Searching your name, this is just a funny comment. Searching your name, I found a Reddit thread that was like, "Is Rick Thorne a legend?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah, he's a legend." What kind of question is that?
oh, dude. Well, that's kind of like, and oh, man, I don't know how it is in other sports, but BMX can be weird sometimes. It used to be. It used to be very like when all those opportunities were happening, there was a lot of inferiority and a lot of jealousy going around with a lot of people, and a lot of people in the industry. And I was not necessarily say a victim of that, but there was a lot of envy towards me and a lot of like shit talking,
Yeah, of
because I
course.
was doing things outside of just what trick you can do. And people didn't understand that, like, the other things that were presented to me as opportunities were like on a different level than what BMX was. Not that it was a higher level, it was just a different thing.
Well, it was
And then
more off of your personality versus
absolutely,
just being able to ride, which has made the social media thing what it is now. Because just
absolutely.
like you were saying, it's like it used to be what tricks you could do, and
Yep.
then and now you rode that wave a little bit of like they're like, oh, this guy can ride and he's got a personality, whereas most people, myself included, most of my career was just like trying to let my riding speak for itself. I wasn't good enough to do that. I should have been more of a personality.
Well, I mean, look, check it out. I would say this before too, and in my own head is like, we're all got these opportunities. We've been working hard. I worked in a restaurant for 7 years. I'm from lower middle class Missouri. My parents worked in factories. No disrespect, it's how we were raised. I was a little kid riding bikes. I didn't want to go back, and so in my mind, I'm like, you can compete at the X Games, and then if you don't get off the ramp and no one remembers you, your market value is just competing, which is
Yep.
fine. Then now you're not necessarily like a brand, you're just a logo placement,
Yeah.
with no disrespect.
No,
And
for
for me,
sure.
I knew what I had because I had these opportunities coming without even trying. And I was like, oh, I'm going to lean on both of these, but I still ride today. That's the thing. Like it never was like a one or the other kind of thing. It's like I always tell myself TV shows will probably go away, but my bike riding won't unless I stop. So, a lot of times I just been blessed with that. But to answer your question, is he a legend or whatever? Who knows? People are going to talk. Who cares?
I was just
You know.
putting that out there. I thought it was
No,
funny.
I know. I think it's funny, but I don't
But
think I
I
don't
would
even want to
say
be called
yeah.
that.
I would
But I don't
say
even want to be
yeah.
called a legend
But
means you're done. Legend means you're done.
does it?
I
Is
think
that
let
what
me
that
look up what
means?
legend means. Let's see. Like, watch. And when people go, legend, mate, sick. I'm like,
But it's like
uh,
something that maybe didn't exist.
or as a thing of the past. Watch. Legend meaning. Because I might not be a legend. Check it out. A traditional story sometimes. Popularity regarded as an historical but on authenticated. How do I say that? An extremely famous or notorious person, especially in a particular field. Oh, okay.
There you go.
Yeah, well,
So not the first one, but the second
I'm half legend.
one. So it's interesting when you
That dude that
said,
probably posted that probably doesn't even ride anymore. That's what's funny about these old schoolers. You
um,
know,
you, so I do comedy as well, which is another
you
reason
do?
why I was like, I want to have
Yes.
Rick on because this is awesome. There's like the crossover, you don't see that much from action sports to
Awesome,
comedy.
dude.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, I got to have Rick on, and I reached out to Adam Barker. Thank you, Adam
Yep.
Barker.
What up,
Um,
Adam?
but it's interesting because like I never thought of comedy when I was younger. I was just like, which I do get locked in like train of thoughts, I guess. But I was just like ride dirt bikes. And then it wasn't until I was getting close to the end of my career I got hurt. I was announcing shows instead of riding it, and
Right.
I was just slipping jokes in for me, and I could see people laugh, and then it was like triggered something that I'm just in the wrong venue for this. Um,
Oh, so how long you been doing comedy?
since 2016.
Sick, dude.
But my
That's
point is
rad.
that you were like at a younger age, I never would have thought I could have been a comedian. You know what I mean? I think that doing what I did and announcing those shows because I booked my own shows, so then I was just like, I'll just hire somebody to ride for me, and then I'll announce. But if that stuff hadn't happened, I never would have been like, this is even an avenue that I would be able to pursue. So to me, it's interesting that as a kid, you're just like, I'm going to do comedy and act, and I'm going to ride bicycles.
Yeah, I wrote down a list because I was like I couldn't do one thing, because when I grew up in my house, my parents watched whatever, we could watch whatever. So I grew up with like George Carlin, Richard Pryor. Those were the comedians that I saw like as like what comedy was because there wasn't really a lot to be there wasn't a lot to see, like there wasn't a lot of specials, there
Hmm.
wasn't the internet. Unless if you didn't go to clubs, you didn't really see comics,
Right.
and I wasn't going to clubs. So those who I was exposed to. But yeah, man, I mean, look, dude, you said it right there. Comedy is a lot about like, and you correct me if I'm wrong, it's about getting in front of people and being comfortable in front of people. If you host shows and you get people to like, you could guide people that way and like, all right, on count of three, everyone say this or whatever. And you start to learn how to work a crowd. You're already ahead of the game when you step into comedy because
Yeah.
you're already used to being in front of people. And that's what I was trying to say to some people, like, um, not necessarily questioning, like, oh, now you're getting into comedy. It's like, dude, I've been doing kind of like comedy for years, just not stand up, as far as like personality on TV shows and little skits and stuff like that. So, um, comedy, I got in at the point where it was easier for me because of all the things like we said earlier. You learn from writing and moto and stuff. You're able to put into your comedy. So that's rad, though, dude. I'm stoked for you. Do you go up a lot? Like where you live, are there a lot of clubs? I'm sure there are.
Yeah, I'm in New Jersey, so there's a bunch of, and I'm probably 2 hours from like downtown New York just because of traffic. If there was no traffic, it'd be like an hour, but
Right.
probably
What?
2 hours. But there are a lot of mics and shows and stuff
Yeah,
in
New
the
York's got a
area.
lot.
Yeah,
New
exactly.
York's a tough city, I heard too, for New York, the crowd. I've never performed there,
It
but LA is
depends.
weird. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's similar. So you probably wouldn't be that thrown off. It really depends on what neighborhood or whatever you're at in New York.
Totally, dude. It's the same everywhere. Yeah. Like it's
But
even here or even state, like go to Austin and like their comedy mentality is a lot way
yeah,
different than what, Hollywood and LA is just a different. But then what's weird is that LA, if you go to like, you know, Orange County could be different than LA. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So it's all weird. But that's
Well,
cool though, bro. Stoked.
where I'm at is a little bit. People are a little bit more. I don't know, rugged. Or I don't know how you want to say it, but I know that people from New York come to the closest club here, the Dojo of Comedy,
Oh, I
and
know that spot. I follow them. Yeah. Yep.
and they come there and they'll be like start going a little bit harder with their jokes, and they're like, "Oh, you guys are fun." And then they're like, "Let me try this," and then they'll try it, and everybody laughs, and they're like, "Oh shit, okay." So like, the area I'm in, you can kind of go hard. It's not one of those, you know. Do you know who
Yeah,
Bob Levy is?
yeah,
Yeah, I used to follow Bob Levy there all the time. Once Bob goes up, you could say whatever you want as soon as you open up.
that's yeah, I think it's because people are all tourists, you know what I mean, in New York and in LA.
Yeah,
And, you gotta think, like, the clubs, in LA, people go the popular ones, like Laugh Factory, Comedy Store, Improv, those clubs are gonna sell out because they're just, iconic and they're
yeah,
historic, and those are the big 3. And, like, and then you got the new one, like a Bourbon Room. But, there's a lot of tourists, so a lot of tourists are kind of all different kind of personalities that don't think the same way in the same city, kind of put in the same spot. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
yeah.
it's just a different kind of thing. Um, but yeah, where do you live? Do you live like near Cherry Hill or something?
Um, I live almost to Pennsylvania off of Route 80, so
Okay.
like Hackettstown.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I
Because I've
don't
done
think
some
Cherry
shows up
Hill's
there.
that far. Where at?
Yeah, I did shows in Cherry Hill
Oh,
and
okay.
in Newark, and like I remember we did a state fair in Cherry Hill. It was like me, Hoffman, and Mira.
Oh,
It's
okay.
crazy. Yeah, state.
Awesome.
That's back in that's pre X Games. That was state fair racket, bro. I'm so glad I don't do that shit anymore. I mean, I love being with the homies and stuff, but state fairs, bro,
I know. I know it.
cotton
I've done
candy
my
stands,
share.
and you get it, turkey legs and shit. You're like, dude, I'm fucking going nuts.
I have to get my I got to get my corn dog when I go though.
Dude, we used to make deals with the dude across the way. Hey, yo, we'll
Announce him
we'll
during the show.
and you
Don't
give us
think
some
we don't
turkey
still
legs.
run that deal.
Oh, yeah. Because we were getting 15 bucks a day food. And like, I remember McCoy's like, let's get those fools of sponsors, Thorne. Shot them out on the mic and we can get
Yeah.
turkey legs for lunch. I was like, what?
Exactly.
I had a lot of fun with that shit, but I'm glad I don't do it anymore. Did it
Yeah.
for years, over 10 years. So
Yep. Leading into the doing X Games.
yeah, once X Games hit, I mean, there was a
Yeah.
buzz that early 2000s, late 90s, and things changed for a lot of us. Yeah. And it was all of us really. So, yeah, it was cool.
That was a good
But,
little wave to ride right then.
it
Exactly.
goes like this, bro. It goes like this. And I wouldn't listen. I don't think that I would be here still able to ride as much as I do if I didn't have a band, if I didn't do comedy, if I didn't host things, because I wanted to become a brand. I wanted to be like my own brand that I could do things because I love riding, and I know there's never been a lot of money in bike riding. I mean,
Yeah.
what's a lot of money, bro? Like, oh, hey, homie's getting 200 bucks a month. It's like it's 50 bucks a week, bro. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? There's never really been all of that came from like contest and sponsors outs. Probably the same with moto, dude. It has to be, especially freestyle moto. It was sponsors outside of what, dirt bikes or BMX bikes. It was like, the clothing and the shoes and stuff like that. And that was the only way that you could maintain. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And only the very top percent are making that.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know.
yeah, and it's especially freestyle motocross. It's all that because you guys don't even get your bikes free, do you? Maybe get it from a shop or something. Is that how that
Dude,
works?
I always paid for all my stuff.
Crazy,
Uh,
right?
I like I said, I had my own company and booked shows, so that's where I made my money off of demos. A lot of state fairs, a lot
Yeah,
bike
dude.
rallies, whatever.
Mm.
You know.
Whatever it took to not go bust tables, right?
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, man, those were cool days. Those were good times. And but back to the comedy thing, like, yeah, I mean, every room's different, dude. But I kind of want to go everywhere. I don't really. I just want to go perform and make people laugh. And I've learned. See, here's another thing we could say with bikes is I've learned to adapt to my environment and my situations, meaning like how to ride a skate park that sucked and I still had to compete in it. And you're able to adapt. And that's another thing that for me, not to say that I would take away from my art in any way, but at the same time, I'm able to like know the environment I'm in. And so then like, okay, lean towards this. Okay, lean towards that. Because ultimately you want to make people laugh. And
Yeah.
but you don't want to jeopardize your artistic expression neither. So it's like I've just been able to adapt a lot. And I think that kind of helps sometimes when it comes into like different going into a room where I might not feel comfortable with, but I'll still be able to do it, you know?
So
So
when did you start comedy?
2019.
Okay, cool.
And then COVID, I didn't do anything because I was so new and I didn't really like, I was just all about like just writing at that time. And then after COVID, then I started getting more and then, more into comedy. And so I had my own show at like the Rainbow Bar and Grill. I did like 5 of those. And I had another show. And then I thought like I'll put on shows and then people know like, because one thing I've struggled with, either it might be in my head or reality is you're known as a biker. Oh, you can't be in a band. Oh, you can't act. You can't do
That was
comedy.
my
You're the
issue.
biker.
That was my issue in my own head of trying to even become a comedian.
Oh, you can't become a comedian. You run a show and you ride dirt bikes, and that's what I know you as. So that's what you will stay. It's like,
Yeah.
no, dude. And so, challenging, battling that has always been, so when I got into comedy, I got offered to do some shows. And so then I said, well, this would be a good idea because to put on my own show because I can meet some big comedians and have them headline, and then they'll understand that I do comedy and I'm not this guy. And then I realized that putting on shows is very stressful and if you're promising some comics a little bit of money to come out, and if you don't, you're coming out of pocket. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
learned that it was easier to book the show than to get people in the door.
Yeah.
And and then I found myself being like, well, I don't want to be known as a booker. You know,
Yep.
I'm gonna be known as like I was a bike rider. I show up and I perform.
Right.
That's what I don't know. Do you feel the same way, or do you like to book because you did your own shows? Do you book your
Well,
own comedy shows too?
I do, but that's the thing I basically backed off of, which I backed off of comedian comedy a bit, like as a whole over the last like probably 6 months, just to, well, not 6 months. I did some stuff December, but last couple of months just to focus on this. But yeah, I did always book my own stuff, and like you're saying, it's like its own job and stress and everything
Yeah,
else. And
yeah.
I think though that I booked my own stuff even freestyle motocross wise because I was at a level where I wasn't getting like I had the career I had because I took it by the horns and I made myself an entity that was booking stuff. And I was even one of the first like 3 people with portable ramps. So
Oh,
everybody on the
sick.
East Coast had to deal with me at one point. So I also think I focused a lot on that stuff, so that probably took away from how far I made it in riding. Because right off of the bat, I started kind of booking stuff. But yeah, I mean, I would rather. It's nice to be the talent, right, and show
Yeah,
up and
yeah,
be
yeah,
taken care
absolutely.
of versus like being boots on the ground there the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly, dude. We both get it. I mean, I think I would maybe consider doing another comedy show, but that's not really in my interest, um, because it's like where I want to put my time. You know what I mean? And not to say that I had a bad time doing it. It was fun. There were great shows. Dude, Fat Mike from NoFX did his first comedy set at the Rainbow at one of my shows. It was
Awesome.
cool. I had like Sam Tripoli on a show. I had Dean Del Rey. I had Joe Sib.
So
Um,
Sam is partners with Mike in the dojo
I
of
had some
comedy.
bangers. I know this. I know this because see,
Okay.
I used to go to the dojo in LA,
Yep.
but I was so new. I was doing the dojo open mic downstairs and the main show was upstairs. So I would go down and do open mics, which like, did you ever do open mics?
Yeah. Of
Man, they're
course.
rough. They could be rough. They could be
Yeah.
rough, man.
Yeah, for sure.
And and
Especially
I
when you're
thought,
in a bar where nobody knew it was an open mic.
or you're in a bar with like 6 guys and they all are comics, and so you're
Yeah.
like, "Am I even funny? Who am I talking to? The walls here? Like, this is crazy." And you just reach a point where you're like, people say, "Well, you just got to get it out, man. You just got to get it out." And there's some truth to that, but it's what I'm working to be towards is being able to, because there's some spots out here that are kind of like working mics, to where there's still kind of a crowd, but it's kind of an open
Yeah.
mic. Um, but also too, I think you just always get it out just talking to people or recording something on Instagram or a skit or whatever. You can still get things out. Um, I did the open mics for a while, bro. Long while. But
Yeah.
yeah, the dojo, and I know
You
my
ha
buddy Trevor. They used to run the Trevor
Yep.
Kevlo used to run that. Do you know him?
A little bit. When I was working at the one here, I had a message back and forth with him to like set some stuff up, but that was about it.
Yeah, because he's got his own thing now called, I think, Corrupted Comedy,
Yeah, in
that he's
Austin,
doing.
right?
Yeah, he's all over the place, Chicago, whatever.
Oh,
But, you
nice.
know, so yeah, but when I did my own shows, man, I booked I had a lot of stuff. I had Juicy Jet Ski, was on there.
Juicy
Um,
jet ski.
or no, Jet Ski Johnson. She used to call herself Juicy Jet Ski. She's on the Bad Friends show
Okay.
yeah, she's great. And then, uh, I don't know if she would call it, maybe I thought she called herself that. I don't know, whatever. But, yeah, just a bunch of other people. I can't think off the top of my head, but like, you know, uh, Xavier, that's friends that does the
From XG.
podcast. Yeah, he was on a show and like, I'm just trying to think. Whatever, it was good. And Fat Mike his first ever comedy set, which I thought was cool. Um,
Yeah, that's super cool.
so it was fun, man. But you know, putting on shows is like, you know, like we said, you become that guy, you know. And so there's nothing or girl or whatever, but it doesn't matter. It's just where you want to put your time, you know. And with me juggling like so many different things, I didn't want to keep, you know, putting on shows unless it was something that I felt like would be profitable for my time because, you know,
Well, and that was
I
the
gotta feed kids, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, and that
You
was
know?
the issue with it is that doing several different things, it's hard to put the amount of time into promoting a comedy like you really need to, or a show like you really need to
Yeah,
get it to
absolutely.
succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. But I've been pretty lucky, dude. I've done shows with Bill Burr, not like with, but I was on the same, you know, I was one of the comics
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
you know, and with Donnell Rollins and a lot of them out here, man. I've been on a lot of really good shows. Um, you know, because my buddy used to work at this place called the Bourbon Room, and there was a lot of shows there that were going on at the time, and like, you know, just done a lot of good stuff. Did shows with Tripoli, and you know, just cool stuff, man. And understanding that like comedy, like comedians, they're like, you know, comedians are like doing what we did uh back in the day, as far as like, you know, hey Natalie, need to shut that door. Yeah, no problem. Just pull that one. There you go. Thank you. Um, yeah, what was I saying? Oh, I just see comedies like doing like what a lot of us action sports did, and you know, having your merch and then, you know, those kind of things. You know what I'm saying? And like that's the
Yeah.
world we've lived in for so long that there's some things in comedy to me that I feel like, oh, I already know all about that because that's what we've been doing, you know,
Yeah.
and branding yourself and stuff like that. So, and once again, that goes back to paralleling, like, oh, I learned this here, so let me see, apply it over here, you know. So
Exactly.
yeah, so
And that's just sports in general, right? I mean, we just happen to be on two wheels, but that's the significance of sports overall is just giving people a frame of reference of working hard and seeing results
yeah,
where
and you know what? There's a lot of comedy in action sports. You know, there's a lot of like meaning like not comedians, but like there's a lot of personality. There's a lifestyle to it that's like not just straight like contest result.
yeah.
There's a culture to it that's fun. There's a side to it that's fun, and you're always joking and you're always having. If you're riding and the vibes sucks, you don't want to be there. So you're always got a cool vibe and cracking jokes and having fun, and or ads that are spoofs of other ads. I mean, how many skate ads have you seen that have been spoofs of something else, right? Or like, so there's always been some kind of like an underlining kind of comedic thing in action sports, to me at least, as far as like just the camaraderie with your friends, you know. So I think there's a lot to be said about that, so where you could apply that. Once you get into comedy, it doesn't feel like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like when I got into comedy, I wasn't like, oh, this is something that I didn't know, and like, oh my gosh, like, oh, this is insane. It's like, oh, I get it. It was easier for me to get, I think. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. And understand how your work ethic matters. And like you
Yeah.
said, you realize that it's about the hang. Because a lot of even, action sports, like you said, I mean, the characters in action sports that are probably some of the funniest people. Now getting into comedy, it's a different thing, but in everyday life, I bet I would imagine, because it is with me, some of the funniest people I know are through action sports. And I think just because the genre that you're in is more of a lighthearted, like passion endeavor versus
Yeah.
people that just got out of school and went straight into a soul sucking job for the rest of their lives.
Dude, yeah, and I mean, and I said this the other day too. This is kind of on the subject, off the subject. My son plays football, so and I'm very supportive, even though I couldn't stand football growing up, and now I love football. I
Uh
got the freaking Chiefs tattooed on my head because I'm from Kansas City.
huh.
My son's hardcore. He's got the same drive I have with riding, and my daughter plays lacrosse, and she's badass at lacrosse. And I'd always say, like, as a joke, like, these sports are so driven by their parents because I think their parents are wanting their kid to get like a scholarship or to get in the NFL or whatever it is. And for me, my son just likes to play. And so I support him because I'm like, if you want to be a pro, because your dad's a pro, you can do it. But you gotta be willing to, put up with the shit and sacrifice and work hard and grind and be likable. And there's a lot of things that go along with it, you know. And the funny thing is that that's such a family driven sport. But in BMX, it's like if someone dad shows up with you at a pool, you're
Yeah.
like, bro,
Yeah.
why'd you bring your parents, bro? We're trying to have some fun over here.
Yeah. That is true.
You know what I mean? Or someone brings their chick, you're like, oh, dude, come on, man,
Yeah.
it's time for the boys. And I don't care how that sounds. I always felt that way because I just felt like there was a camaraderie that we shared, that we were joking about things and we're having fun. And then you didn't want to buzzkill, bro.
Well, it's like the locker room. Shit gets said
Just,
when you're out riding that not every girl is going to be cool with.
I mean, dude, one time my buddy picked me up to go ride this pool, and he picked me up with his girlfriend, and he had like just a one, a two-door. It wasn't like a four-door truck. And so she was with us, and it was just weird the whole time because we're just like driving up there and it's just quiet, it's just different than
Yeah.
when, and then we get to the pool and she's like reading a book and like, I try to crack a joke and he's like afraid to laugh because she's afraid she'll get mad. And I was
Yeah.
just like, oh man, maybe we just me and you hit this pool next time.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's just how I felt about it. But
No,
yeah, I
that's
mean,
that's
yeah.
how it goes when it's a bro down.
Yeah, and what I'm relating that to is that when you get into comedy, man, and you're like, and you're just realizing that like, you've in the sports that we've been in, there's just so much life and personality to it already that comedy just kind of falls into that. If you want that, you could adapt easier,
Yeah.
because you've kind of been in your world, you know.
Actually, and just like and I think in my head it made me think like just all the joking and ribbing and stuff in the locker room or the truck changing and
Yeah.
stuff like that about the action sports culture is kind of like comedy.
Yeah, and I don't want anyone out there to think like, because there's plenty of girls now that ride BMX that kill it. There's plenty of girls that skate. I know girls that ride moto, uh, that kill it. So I ride with anybody. If we're all riding and we could all
Yeah.
have a good time. I was just saying that it's just comparing it to like, football, and it's how so much and how I guess I was trying to relate that to like how there's just a big personality within the sport of expression that you have with your friends, and that's kind of
But
what makes it so great.
wouldn't you say the women that are really good have more of understanding of the man's like sense of humor like that? Because I feel like I've been around
Probably, yeah.
Vicky
Yeah.
Golden and she's doesn't bat an eye when these guys, what I mean, are talking shit and even talk shit to her. Like she just jabs them back and that's it. It's not like she gets her feelings hurt or anything. So I think probably inherently with the cultures, you learn
Yeah.
about, like giving people a hard time and receiving the hard time and not taking it too personally.
Yeah, and I also think that too, like, we're all doing like the same kind of stuff, so we kind of have that relation of like knowing what it takes to do, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I mean,
Respect.
yeah, I think that, I mean, my daughter's that way. She's pretty like tomboyish in a way where she'll joke, but I've always been that way with her. You know what I mean? So I mean, I just think it depends on the person, but I think that, the whole thought process of all that was just like, we share a lot of like comedy and fun with your friends, whether they're guys or girls or everybody together, that that helps when you want to be a comedian from action sports, I think, because you're already kind of used to being in a really youthful, fun lifestyle,
Yep.
and that's what all these sports are, is they're youthful and they're fun. Um, so that helps you a lot transform to the comedy world.
I
It did
agree.
me. It did me at least. I mean, I know I don't look my age. People are always like, "Oh, you're just that." It's like because I don't do drugs, I don't drink, I don't smoke, and I ride bikes, and I keep my mind on like stuff like that, and like jokes and having fun, and life doesn't wear you out as much, I don't think, if you have that kind of uh frame of mind. You know what I mean? And
Agreed.
I give that to sports, bro, especially the sports we're in. Like I don't mean to sound like negative towards anything, because I'm not, but when I compare it to like football, there's a lot of pressure put on these kids a lot. It seems like an underlining thing of like this expectation that people want from their child, um, which I get, hey, cool, but you can only push your kid so much before he's going to be like, dude, I'm
Yeah.
done. And the difference with me with my son in football is I understand that, and I'm not pressuring my son to do anything like that. This is what he wants to do. I'm just supporting it.
Yep.
So I think what happens maybe in other sports, and I just could say football because I'm so deep into that with my son, is it could wear somebody out, and it's not an easy sport. And so parents are expecting this from their children, and they're out there like, putting their bodies through it. They gotta want to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's the same with riding. Is that like, I think if you have fun doing what you do, no matter what sport it is, you're gonna look a lot younger than the person that's stressed out or not expressing themselves like they should.
I
You
think
know.
not drinking and smoking and stuff obviously help, but
Yeah, yeah.
I do think what, like you were saying, and like I mentioned before, you didn't go straight out of high school into a soul sucking job and then just spend your whole life doing that. You and myself included, I think I look pretty young as well.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. And also too, I think it's like the culture, of
Yeah.
like, and you're constantly exercising, you're riding and
Yep.
stuff. And so it's the expectation of having fun and getting rad, and not the expectation of like, you need to get this scholarship and then you'll be happy,
Exactly.
right? It's like, does a scholarship mean you're happy? Does it?
Right.
Does that mean happy, or does playing the game make you happy?
Well, and you're
Do you
kind
understand
of
what I'm saying?
you're
Playing the
alluding
game, man.
you're alluding to what I was gonna say. Whereas people always go like, like learn to love the process, and I don't agree with that because if you're a ditch digger, you know what I mean. How much do you learn to dig? To love digging holes. I think you have to find something that you love the process of, and then do that. And the
That makes
problem
sense, dude.
is
That makes sense.
the
Yeah.
problem is in endeavors like that you're doing because you love them and you want to turn them into something. There's typically not a pathway or just an easy jump start because there's a lot of building on your own. Like, how long did you ride bicycles before you got paid to ride bicycles? Probably decade. You know.
Over a decade. Well, I started doing shows when I was 15, but what did that mean? Like a discount at a bike
Right.
shop, and then we're doing boat shows. And we're like, we'll give you $50 for the weekend, and shit
Exactly.
like that. Wasn't making any solid money.
You
I
did it
started
because you
making
love to do it. And then
Loved it, dude.
eventually you put yourself
Yes.
into the position and got yourself good enough at said endeavor that you could get paid to do it. And it was the exact same thing with me. I think I have
Awesome.
less like self confidence initially. And I think everything in my life was building blocks. Like, I raced and then I turned pro, which gave me the confidence to be like, yeah, I could do freestyle motocross. And then I inevitably talked in front of crowds and had to announce about something that I knew very intimately, which made me be like, oh, maybe I could do comedy, you know?
Yeah, it's the building blocks.
Exactly.
But you would have never gotten that way if you didn't try, or at least respond to the opportunities that were presented to you. Like
Yep.
for me, I've never turned down an opportunity, even if I didn't know how to do something. I felt like I'll just learn how to do it and learn how to do it quick. And
Yeah.
that came with a lot of the things outside of riding. Um, but yeah, man, you learn to like, I hear you, your confidence gets boosted. Like I could sit here and say there's nothing I don't think I can't do because I was able to take a pen and write down some tricks that I wanted to learn that I felt like were big tricks and then apply myself back in the day with no foam pit, with no resi ramp. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
With and bring it to life and get good enough to take it to the biggest contests at the time in the world, or one of them, the X Games,
Yep.
and compete and make the finals with those tricks I wrote down and I learned in the backyard.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can't do because you brought that
Dude,
to life.
I
It's
say the
like comedy,
exact
you're bringing it to life. You know
I
what I
say
mean?
the exact same thing with the backflip of for myself.
Awesome.
Cuz now I'm like everything's framed in the reference of like if you really want something and you're willing to deal with being scared or hurt or whatever it is, then you can do it. It's like so I frame stuff in like, do I care enough to learn that? It's not like can I? It's like do I care enough to put the time in to actually figure that out?
Yeah, exactly. And when you make a list of things and check it off, I still make a list to this day of all kinds of stuff. You're able to like, feel like I accomplished it. I checked the list off, and then you're like, I could do anything. There's nothing that I can't do. And this is what I tell my kids too. And this is kind of off this, I guess, along the same lines of what we're talking about. I tell my son, go for it. I tell my daughter, go for it. You know why? Because your youth you'll never get back.
Yeah.
You will never get your youth back, but I can go to school at my age right now if I wanted to. I could go
Yep.
to school. School's still there. I could still get a loan. I could still, whatever I need to do if that's what I wanted to do. But your youth, you'll never get that back, man. And so I think, I was talking to Tony Hawk about this, and it's like, because I interviewed him. I mean, I've known Tony forever, but one thing that we have a lot in common is like we wake up. We were talking about how we wake up every day and we're looking for that feeling of what riding does to us, and so that's keeping us in that youthful spirit. That feeling of like pulling a trick or getting
Yeah.
rad or skate for him skating. For me, it's like, what am I going to ride today? And I'm excited to wake up and go find something. And it's just, you won't get your youth back, man. And I really do think action sports in a strange, weird way is it's like the fountain of youth to a degree. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like
two things on what you just said.
pretty crazy.
One, isn't it weird that think about your whole BMX career, right? And my
Hmm.
whole freestyle career. We were kids. Like
Yeah.
but you're done with those type of sports like with your peak very early in life in the general scheme of things.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So like you said, you really got to just kind of run with it while you can when you're young and try to make it happen because especially those sports, you do not have that long of a, longevity if you're really trying to push the envelope. There
No,
are
you don't.
some people that are so talented, like Morgan Wade still rides at a really high level. He's just
Oh man, come
so
on, he kills it.
talented.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's my point.
Yeah.
And there's freestyle motor like Adam Jones.
Yep.
Bro, he's just so good. He just rides like he's riding at an easy level for him, which happens to be frigging amazing.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
well, that's been the greatness of what we do is because it goes along the lines of comedy and music and entertainment and sports. It's different. And it's we already all know this, it's like that's what keeps your that's why you have a longer lifespan of what you want to do because it's got less politics in that way too. You know what I mean? Like you could become like a brand and it's like it goes back to what we were saying. You could be a logo placement and have a short run if you don't compete anymore. Or if you bridge some gaps, you could be able to do it your whole life and be able to do all kinds of stuff. Look at Christian Soy, look at Steve Caballero. You know what I mean? Like you're able to look at Twitch in the motor world. He's
yeah.
another
He's
example.
bigger
Like
now than he was when he was riding contests, I would
because
venture
people
to say.
connect. Yeah, what's funny is me and him, they get us confused a lot. We did a skit not too
Really?
long ago. Yeah, we did a skit where because when I take off my head's tattooed, and a lot of people always ask me if I'm Twitch. And
Uh-huh.
I saw him at this event called Born Free, and I was there riding for Vans, and he was just there hanging out. It's like a bike, a lot of
Yeah.
choppers and stuff. And I'm like, yo, what's up, Rick Thorne? He's like, oh, what's up, Twitch? And it was funny because me and him are old friends. But yeah, people relate to him. He's a likable dude. He's still good. It's not that he doesn't ride. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's of it is the expectation of, I guess, what we're trying to say, or what I'm trying to say, is the expectation of action sports in your career is what you put on yourself, not what other people are putting on you. You know, and
Yeah.
that other people's pressure is enough to drive you insane. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like
Yeah.
then you're trying to live up to someone else's expectation to get the scholarship and be happy. It's like, dude, live up to your own expectations and play the game and
Well,
play it the best you can. You
yeah,
know what I
and
mean? That's
the
my way I think. You know what I
I
mean?
totally agree.
Mm.
In motocross, and this is anything, but like in motocross, or like supercross, right? Like Adam Cianciarulo, he's still a factory guy. He can still, when he rides, he's having wrist issues, but when he rides, he still gets top tens, whatever. And people are like, he's done. He should quit. And I'm like, what are you talking about? The guy still gets top tens. Who is going to fill his ride? Like, who's the, like, you know what I mean? Because at one
Yeah.
point he was supposed to be the guy, and now he's not winning championships, finishing like fifth in championships. Everybody's like, he should just give it up. And I'm like, that's a stupid premise because anybody else would be pumped to work their way up to the position that he's in. So it's
Yeah,
like,
but
if you're not the
that's just
guy, then
jealous. Yeah.
yeah.
No, I sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But to
No,
me, I think
that's right.
when people talk like that, it's like you shut up and get on the track, bro. Like, it's there's always somebody, there's always going to be a critic because they're comparing. I believe they're comparing their lives and their age to your life and your age. You know what I mean? Well, this is what I was doing when I was 27. He's not winning. He should just give it up. Yeah, because you gave it up fucking years ago, or you were never even out there. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You were the only time you were on the track was with the shovel, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, so and that it's like that in every sport, dude. Dude, my sport came at me hardcore. Dude, I went through so much. I talk about this all the time. I have no problem talking about it because I like to be a person of positivity and and let people know that I'm not from all these things. And I went from nothing, had it all, lost it all, built myself back. I did all this shit. Like my industry came at me so hardcore in the mid 2000s to the late 2000s to where so many sponsors pulled out. My wife left, lost the house I worked for, had to move back in a small apartment. Everyone's like, "Oh, poor you." It's like, dude, what are you talking
Yeah.
about? Like
Sucks.
this, I'm trying to raise a family. Like I'm trying to. I've always lived within my means. Like, what do you like? I'm trying to have a foundation for my kids. And so it was all out of everybody's jealousy
Yep.
because I was on Cribs, I was in Tony Hawk's video game, I did the Warp Tour, I did this, I did that, and they were comparing it to like what trick they did and where they were at, and I let it bother me, bro. And the more I let it bother me, the worse my situation got. And so then I stopped and I said, dude, you just need to go out and start riding and fuck these people
Yeah.
straight up. Like you got into this because you love it, because of who you are. I'm just commenting on what you said, like he should quit and all this stuff. I heard so many bad things about me, but guess what? Guess what's so great? I rebuilt myself, even though I thought I was probably more like I let it get to me a lot more than I should have. And I guarantee all those dudes that were talking shit don't ride anymore. And if they do, they come out like once in a blue moon. Do you know what I mean? And I'm
Yep.
still out every day killing it. So you have to, and that was like a thing with me is people came at me like that. And I was like, even friends of mine that I'd known for a very long time. And I was like, man, like it's crazy to think that like you guys got that worked up because I owned a house. But now it's okay for
Yeah.
these guys to own houses and it's okay
Yeah.
for these guys to have sponsors. Do you know what I mean? And now it's okay for you guys to do what I did hosting and you look just like me. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it's like
No.
it's like it didn't make any sense to me. It's like, dude, when you that's why you can't let that stuff get to you, man. And I let it get to me, unfortunately. So,
It's
you know.
hard to, because you seem very down to earth just from the last hour that we've been talking. But
It's already been an
um
hour,
and Adam likes you, so I'm assuming you're good people.
huh? Yeah, Adam's great.
But it's hard to um be like for myself at least, and it sounds like you're similar. It's hard for me to be like, these people are saying this because they're jealous of me, like, but that's what a
Oh,
lot
it's
of,
hard for you to say that.
it's hard for me in my head to be like, and I understand that a lot of the times that's what it is. Because,
Yeah.
people don't know what's actually going on with any of our lives. So they just see it from a certain point of view and they're just like, screw that guy. And it's hard
Right.
to kind of be like, oh, you know, they're just mad because they're jealous of me. But a lot of times that is what it is. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people, like you said, take it hard. I do too. If people say stuff, I'm like, why is this guy butthurt or whatever?
You
You,
know what, I used to, and I learned from my experience that I don't anymore. I make through comedy, I'm able to make light
yeah,
of it. And that's one thing that comedy's helped me with, is like to not get too upset if someone doesn't like you. I'd never experienced that before because I'd worked my whole life in BMX and supported it and fought for BMX and stood up for BMX. I mean, we used to get in fist fights all the time with people because they would try to like, shut us down. We were young punks, dude. We were out on bikes having fun, and they didn't understand us. So I felt like at one point in my life, what I stood up for and fought for, I ended up fighting against, and it was a trip to me because they went to a couple people went to the level of doing print ads dressed up as me, mocking me, and I didn't even understand the reasons why, because I had a sponsor that was paying me well, and I had a
yeah,
signature bike, and do you understand what I'm saying? So
yeah,
it is weird to say, oh, you're just jealous of me, bro. I don't think I'm any better, but the facts are the facts. They were, and if they wanted it, they needed to get out and grind it, and instead of me going to drugs and alcohol and all these other things, I didn't do any of that. I just went out and kept doing what got me where I was at and what made me feel good, and that was riding, man. And so I didn't talk shit on anybody. I didn't hurt anybody. I didn't do anything. I just said, okay, start riding, keep riding, things will get better. And they did over time. But yeah, it was a rough time in my life. So I'm just relating that back to like these dudes saying, oh man, this guy should give it up. This guy should hang
yeah.
it up. I mean, people were saying that about Travis Kelce his last football game. Whatever you feel about football or your team or whatever, I get it. Everybody defends their team. But when you're on the top, it's this is what I feel like it's like. When you're grinding up, people love you. And when you get to the top, people like
Yeah.
go, they don't want you to be there anymore.
Dude,
You're winning too much.
we want somebody to beat this guy.
Now you suck. Now you
Yeah.
suck. But I didn't suck down here when I was nobody and you had my back and you were just, you not like necessarily I needed you to believe in me, but you were like, didn't have a problem with me. And then
Yeah.
as I came up, cool, not cool, not cool, not cool at all. Oh, tear this
Yeah.
guy down. Oh, he sucks.
Listen, you
You
got
know
to
what I
get
mean? It doesn't
you
make
got to
sense.
you got to get just
That's
the
called
right
jealousy,
you
bro.
got to
That's
get
jealousy.
just the right amount of success, cuz too much and then we hate you. But if you're just underdog struggling it, then we love you.
I love you, man. Keep it up. Punk rock
Isn't
for life,
that
bro.
is that's 100% true though. It's so crazy, but it's like, and I've even watched people root for people in moto and then they start just winning everything and they're like, and then they start just rooting who can beat them was the guy's actual statement. Like, who's going to beat him? And I'm like, this is literally how you're watching Supercross, but just by trying to root for somebody to beat this guy instead of being like last summer, Jet won every single race. Yo, take it in. You're witnessing
Uh, yeah.
an epic run by somebody. Like,
Yeah.
just take it in and be able to be like, man, I remember when he did that. That was really cool. Instead of wasting your whole summer trying to wish for somebody else to beat the guy. You know?
Yeah, but unfortunately, if you don't check yourself, and I've done this before in my life, unfortunately, people compare and they compare their life and what they think their ability is and what they think your life is like compared to theirs. And they may think that your life is greater and you have everything made for because you are rich or because you have opportunities or because you want to race. They think that because that's all that they're basing you as a person, as what you do. They don't know your life and what you're going through and what struggles you may be going through internally. But when I'm riding, I'm this. But when I'm off my bike, I'm this. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate that we do that. But I think as humans, it's something that's unavoidable because everybody wants to be successful, but not everybody wants to put in the work. And that's nothing new. A lot of
No.
people say like, oh, well, it's the internet and you're entitled. No. People have been wanting to put in the work for a long ass time, way before the internet. This shit
Oh,
takes
way
work
before.
and dedication and sacrifice. And if you ain't up for that, you ain't gonna make it. And a
Yeah.
lot of people don't look. We used to say this: kids turn 16 when we rode bikes. They got a car, they got a girlfriend, they got a job. Bye bye,
Yeah.
bye bye. You're
Yep.
done. And they were done. I told myself, I ain't getting a car, I ain't getting a girlfriend, I ain't getting a job. Well, I eventually had to get a job, but I waited till I was 17. I'm gonna just ride, you know,
Yep.
and I needed it because I needed to start supporting myself. And it takes work. So for people to always say like that entitlement thing is or and like you said something earlier, they only see what you're doing now. They don't see the 15 years of hard work.
Yeah.
They don't see you waking up early and stretching out or sitting in a sauna or watching your diet or working out or going through
Or
a
all the
heartbreak
times you
or
were hurt.
yeah, tied up. Like they just see this like, oh, that dude's got that and I want it. Well, step it up, homie.
Exactly.
Talk is cheap. I don't
Exactly.
know. That's what and I don't mean to come off so like aggressively about it or like calling anyone out. I just feel like, I've learned to like look at that though and just kind of laugh. Like I've been selling a lot of shit online recently because I started to think like I saved a bunch of stuff intentionally to sell to fans, like posters and stuff. I mean, every year we would do Warp Tour and we would do a new poster, and I saved like stacks of each year's of posters, knowing
Awesome.
that one day I could probably sell these. And so people were talking shit, and like I had an X Games bag I held on for 30 years. 30 years I didn't use the thing, and I sold it. And dudes are like, "Oh, you must be hard up, man. Times
Yeah.
must be tough." And instead of getting mad and being like, "No, dude," and trying to explain, I go, "Yeah, my kids need to eat. Buy something, or they're gonna starve."
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
make a joke of it because the reality is, if I die, well, I'm going to die. When I do, I have a box of shit. My kids can respect it, but not really because they don't know what it took to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yep.
They'll be like, "Oh, that's dad's shit." And I'm figuring like, why not try to get rid of some of that to some fans? Not that I'm dying soon, but if people are interested in this, otherwise it's just going to end up in Goodwill somewhere, and it might as well stoke someone out while they're alive. You know what I mean?
A hundred
And
percent.
yeah, so people were talking shit on me though. I don't know. I
Dude,
went on
you
that rant
can't.
because you got to make. I was trying to compare that to like criticism I laugh at. I'm in control of my Instagram. If I don't like you, I'll block your ass. I'll delete your ass. It's real simple to do,
Yeah.
you know? And if someone has something to say, I usually try to make a joke of it or just if it's something I really don't like, I just delete the shit, you
Yeah.
know?
No, I
Don't
agree
matter.
with that. And that's a little
Yeah.
bit of the comedy, being able to spin what they say on you to make it, like
Yeah.
just address it, but not be like butthurt about it. Because then they win. Then the terrorists win.
Yeah, you can't be on stage at comedy and get defensive because you get in a fight. They
Exactly.
can't take your power, man. You can't give someone your power over their opinion of what they think you should do. Like, I don't care what you think I should do. I don't
Oh,
even know
this
you.
is what I
You know what I mean?
wanted to. Yeah, exactly. Um, you must be in a very bad place if you're that upset over this right now.
Yeah.
Um, I was gonna say, how do you feel? And it's weird. I'm trying to ask it without leading you to the answer, but
Oh,
I'll just will say it. Do you agree that like because people would say, um, or just ask about comedy versus writing or whatever, and I tell people like the nerves before isn't the same because you're not gonna die. But the ride home, if you've had a good set, is just like when you had a good day riding with your friends and you just can't shut up and you're just like energized. Like, do you get
yeah.
that too? Like, it's like good riding session vibes when you're driving home from a killer set.
Absolutely, dude. I mean, you're like, and when you do a good set and when you don't. You know what I mean? You just know. You're like, oh, that didn't work.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I get stoked when, and it's hard to try to like describe that to someone because they just think you're trying to like boast about your comedy or make it sound like you're funnier than you really are. You don't really have anybody to tell. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Because I could be like, dude, I just killed it on stage. They're like, yeah,
I
yeah,
know.
sure you did. You just kind of got to take it in and be like, man, that was dope, dude. I'm so hyped. And if someone goes, well, I go, I just had the best set ever. And they'll be like, yeah, yeah, sure. So that's the difference with it is that I can't share it with like, you know, the homies and then be like, yeah, I feel what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
just kind of got to be like, yeah,
Unless they're a
for you.
comedian,
Yeah. I mean,
then
unless
at
how
least.
close you are because
Yeah.
comedy's real clicky,
Yeah.
you know?
for
It's like
sure.
this open mic's a click and this open mic's a click and then this club's a click and that club's a click. And for me, I've never clicked up. I've never
Yeah,
been like, I'm going to click up with these guys and become part of their scene because I always believe that when you click up with something, the scene becomes your thinking.
yeah,
You got to
for
have your
sure.
own thinking. And so I want to work with everybody. I want to perform with everybody. I'm not trying to click up and be with these dudes because then I become, you know what I mean? So it's just,
Okay,
yeah.
here's a good comedy question. How do you watch a lot of comedy or you don't watch, like, other than obviously being at shows and being exposed to it that way? Do you like take it in on your own when you're at home?
Yeah. And I watch a lot of, like, people that I've watched their specials more than 10, 20 times. You know, I'm not always looking for the next new, like, I could watch someone and if someone's like, "This dude's hot," or "This girl's great," and then if something about them I don't like, I just don't watch it, you know? But,
Yeah,
like, I go with what I like and what I know, that I like if I discover someone new. But, yeah, I watch comedy constantly. Lately, I've just been watching a lot of George Carlin, like, a bunch.
yeah,
I just never get tired of watching him or his philosophies. But, you know, obviously Chappelle, I watch him quite a bit. Richard Pryor, I watch everybody, man. But some people, I'll watch it one time and then be like, "Ah, that's cool. They're good, but they're not,"
yeah,
you know. And you kind of like for me, I'm still learning and developing, bro.
yeah,
Like, and now I could watch a comic and be like, "Oh, that's the setup. Oh, here comes the punch,"
yeah,
you know. And you start to look at it differently. But you kind of got to be careful. Well, okay. Well, in my band, I would have different musicians with me that I would hire, and they would go to like a school called MI, right? And they would graduate Music Institute, and they were so musically trained that they couldn't just enjoy music; they had to break it down, and they broke everything down and every riff down to where it was like wasn't fun. It was like everything was like a breakdown. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
So you kind of got to be careful to not fall into that like, oh, I'm just watching this to look at the structure or see how they are, or to learn something from them that maybe could help me, not to imitate or anything, but also still enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not be like, "Oh, here comes a punch. Okay, oh, next." And so it's kind of a weird balance with me
That
because
is, some people do that, right? They watch stuff with this judging eye versus being able to take it in and just be like, enjoy, the art
oh man,
that they made.
and a lot of trained musicians that go to school for that I've encountered, that's what they do. And I don't think they mean to do it. They've just been kind of taught that way
Right.
to where like they hear things and they go, oh, and then it takes away that they care about the song, but it seems like they care more to express the fact that they know
Right.
that
They
structure of what note
messed up
that's
there.
in. And then you're just like, and then they compare it to this other band, and then you're just like, can't we just listen to the fucking song?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, the structure is not right with this. You're not supposed to be able, like, artists do that sometimes. They went to school, they're like, oh, this isn't right because of this. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Looks totally fine.
Yeah, well,
You
and also
know?
too, yeah, exactly, dude. I hear you on that one. It's the same with shooting photos. I shoot a lot of my own photos. If you go skating or riding or moto, right? There's more than one way to shoot a photo, right?
Yeah.
There isn't just one way. That's just your eye. Now, obviously, if you shoot a photo wrong, it would be like underneath and weird and real close and cropped out, and like, it still might look cool now in this day and age.
Right.
But there's not really a wrong or right way to do anything. It's how you want to do it, and that's the best thing about expression. When you start to follow guidelines of how things should be, it takes away from your creative
Yeah.
process. Did Pink Floyd write all their music going, we need to write this way? They just wrote their shit.
Yeah.
Like, so it's kind of like you have an idea of what structure is, but you kind of say, okay, but I need to apply my own. And that's what I was telling my son. You go train with these trainers and they're giving you advice. You take what you want, you leave the rest. But you have to develop your own program. Like I couldn't go to you go to these camps with this school on this team, and therefore I'm playing at UCLA. It doesn't work like that.
Right.
You have to figure out your own routine and your own program, but take bits and pieces from different areas that can influence you, and different parts of structures that can influence you. And that way you're not following just this strict guideline of what success is in art or music or sports. um it's not so much like that, you know. So I agree with you, man. You gotta have your own system, your own program of things. And like these dudes would sit around and read books. And I remember one dude in Spanish reading the book of how like Van Halen made it. And it was like, this is how I'm gonna make it. And it was like, that's their story.
Right.
That
And
was
you're only going to
their
get,
their path, you know?
and it's like you're only going to get a little bit behind the person that did it first that way, usually. You know,
Yeah, it
like,
doesn't mean that it's gonna work for you if they did it that way and then you follow what they did. It doesn't
yeah.
it's not that's not,
All
you
right,
know.
another
Um,
comedy question, then we can wrap this up. How do you
sorry if I'm talking too much, but I know a podcast is all about talking. So
No, it's perfect. I like it.
okay, good.
Just trying to keep us. I was just thinking about stuff that while we were talking. Uh, Writing jokes. How do you go about writing your jokes? Because I know that you same thing. We're both basically toddlers in comedy, so it's like you're always going to develop and change. But like right
Yeah.
now, how are you figuring out your jokes?
So when when I do these posts where I do like on Instagram, I'll say a quote, right? And that's more kind of like a setup and then a punch, right?
Yep.
Sometimes in my comedy, I'll tell a story with jokes along the way and then the punch, right? So basically like you're the way that I look for jokes is through a lot of truth, I guess, in my life. Like I don't make stuff up to like be, when it comes to I don't get on stage and talk about action sports stories and all the famous people that I met because I feel like that's a little tacky. But if
Yep.
there's a cool story, I tell injury stories. I talk about my kids a lot. I find comedy where a lot of current events, but that's kind of like disposable comedy to me
Yeah.
that like you use just to kind of like work on new material, but it might not stick as like
And it
your
helps
your
with your
stick.
writing, I think, too, because it's like you said,
Yeah.
it's like a quick turnover. Because once the news cycle goes, the jokes are useless.
Yeah, and then I play a lot off of my tattoos because I do get judged by everybody in the world, everywhere I go. Either they're trying to figure me out or they think I'm in a gang or on drugs or gonna rob them or some shit. And so I use a lot of that into my set as well. But it kinda like when I sit down and go, "I need to write a joke," and I did this yesterday, man. I was trying to figure out like uh, uh, something to put with this photo, which is kind of tricky because you have a photo and then you're trying to relate a joke to the photo. So now it's like it's a
Right.
different kind of, and I've been challenging myself that way. And I was trying hard, and trying hard, and I kept typing this stuff, and then like an hour went by, and I'm like, I can't force this, man. I just gotta like let it be, like
Yep.
let it go. And if you try to force it, it's like writing a song. You try to force it, like now you need this song now. You, for me, I'll tell you what I do is I go out and ride a 10-mile ride in Hollywood. I've been doing it since 19 freaking whatever. And I put on my headphones and I just escape from all my bills and all my responsibilities. And I'm able to think. And I've wrote so many songs and so many jokes and came up with so many ideas on that ride because I've been able to just feel alive and free. And I'm out on my bike and got my headphones blasting. That's how I write a lot, to be quite honest with you. I got to go to that place like that. If I sit down and go, here's pen and pad, let's do it right now.
Yeah.
I kind of go, oh, I don't know I don't know. It just kind of comes to me as as my mind's free, I guess.
That's interesting because I don't necessarily do something specifically to try to write, which I probably maybe should try. But also, and I will sit down and like journal a little bit, but I very rarely get anything out of that. I just will get stuff while I'm driving or I'm doing something. Something will pop in my head and I'll be like, that's weird. Like,
Yeah.
or just, some kind of observation. And then that's how I end up writing stuff.
Yeah.
And
You
then,
react. Yeah. Yeah. That's
yeah, just
cool. That
like,
works.
just like
Yeah.
organically kind of go, huh, and then if I remember, I write it down in my notes. That's my biggest issue, is being like, write that down right now.
Dude, I get that way when I'm talking to someone and we start talking about something and it's just so natural and free and light. And then I was just like, dude, I just said a funny joke. Hold on a second. I so many times I'd be like, hold on a second, dude, I gotta put this in my phone,
Yeah,
because I'm gonna forget. Um, but yeah, it's just in like, like I said, 5 years, really like 4 years, because I didn't do anything during COVID. But I don't. Some people say you got into it your age, you're older. I've heard that. That doesn't matter, man. I'm like,
No.
I'll be fine. I'm not worried about. I'm not gonna let anything get in my head that I can't do this because I'm doing it. So you just gotta. But I will say it's a process of like, you know, building. Well, let me ask you this real quick, because I know we've got to get going soon. What I notice in comedy is maybe it's just a different time, which it is a different time. But when I grew up, I just felt like comedy had more characters in it. Kind of like when hip hop had like a lot more characters, or punk rock had a lot more characters. It doesn't seem like it has that as much. Not to say that it doesn't have funny people, because it does,
Right.
but like
It's
characters,
Kinnison.
like yeah, or like a Dangerfield, or a Dice Clay, or like a Andy Kaufman, or like there were. I just felt like that's the comedy. A John Belushi, which he was kind of all he was many characters, but
But they were all larger than life. Larger
yeah,
than
dude,
like just a regular person. I understand what you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah, and like punk rock used to be that way. You could
Carrot
have the
head.
miss,
Carrot
yeah,
top.
Carrot Top, another, yeah, Carrot Head, a Gallagher. These guys
Yeah.
were and so I feel like I have that in me because I've developed this character with bike riding, and then took it into TV and took it into music. I'm the same character, that I'm not
Yep.
gonna like try to like be something different than I'm not. I just feel like that's kind of how my brain works with all this, and it might be right or wrong. But how do you feel about that? Do you feel like, I mean, comedies? There's so many comics now, but I just
Yeah.
feel like, no, in order to stand out and be funny, you got to be funny, but there's got to be a little bit more to you to make it stick. I feel like, I
I
don't know.
agree with that. I think also what you and I are doing also though is probably right, and that's like you doing the jokes in conjunction with pictures of you riding, or just you on stage, where I think we're kind of finding our niche of comedy in the freestyle motocross, and like more so in the action sports, right? You
Yeah,
need to find your people, and ours are action sports people, and there's not really that many comedy slash action sports people. So I kind of think that's the niche, to get all those people that are into action sports and comedy to be like, oh, these guys do both.
yeah,
I think that's cool, and I agree. I obviously a lot of it is if they are a fan of your type of comedy, which again I think that people in action sports are more. We usually are kind of similar in like thought processes and stuff like that. Obviously not across the board, but
yeah. I mean, for me, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, one of my things though is I don't lean too much on like, I let people know that I'm a bike rider when I'm halfway through my set. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Um, I come out more like in the things of like the shock factor, with my shaved head, my head tattooed, and like, who's
Well,
this
I mean
guy?
online, honestly, not so much in person,
Oh yeah, yeah.
because
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
in
you're right. You're right.
person I don't do any motorcycle stuff because nobody has any idea what the hell I'm talking about. So I
Yeah.
just do regular comedy. But as far as building a fan base online, it's, and I would say once you got to a point, or we got to a point where we were big enough online, and then you started drawing your own crowds to shows, now you can go more niche comedy live. But until you're
Yeah.
to that point, or once we put together our tour called Extremely Funny, when we do it in conjunction with X Games, that would be cool. But if you did something like
It'd be
that,
really cool.
so it
Yeah.
was in conjunction and you had people from that realm, now, so I got, do you know the Pulp MX show?
I don't.
So it's a big motocross. It's probably the biggest motocross podcast, and they do live shows, and I got to open for them,
Oh,
and
sick.
it was so specific because it was like people that liked motocross, but not only did they like motocross, they listened to this specific podcast. This specific podcast had inside jokes. So it was like I was blown away how well this stuff worked, because it was so within my wheelhouse of being like, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
motocross stuff. and then I just had to make it funny. It was like amazing. So I think
That's awesome.
if you
Yeah.
can if you can cultivate that kind of scenario or build up your following to where it's enough people to actually understand action sports, I think you would have a you listen to comedians that do them like who
Steve-O.
Doug Stanhope, let's say.
Yep.
I've
Yep.
heard him say, like, he goes, I don't go to random clubs. He goes, I work 30 years to build my crowd up. You think I'm just gonna go to some random club for random people, you know?
Right.
But it's like once you build your niche up and your following, now those people are coming because they like you and your style of comedy. You know, right
Yeah.
now we're just like in the comedy world, nobody. So it's like you just have to be able to, like you said, fit in and deal with any room because
Yeah.
nobody's your fan there for the
Yeah.
most
And I
part.
mean, well, for me, yeah, you're absolutely right. One thing for me though is that a lot of these comedians know me from TV, like George Perez and Amir and I mean Jacoy. He started following me on Instagram. I was like, what? And like I got giddy about that because I like him and Fluffy. I met all these guys, and Bert is another guy that follows me, and I'm not trying to name drop or anything. It's just like I think they know. I don't really remember. Okay, when I was on TV all the time and shit, it never really crossed my mind. It's just something I did.
Yep.
Okay, be real with you. It crossed my mind. I thought it was cool, but I forgot about it after I did it because I was on to the next thing. What's next? What's next? What's next? And I didn't really think that people were watching. I didn't know, and it turns out that a lot of people were, and that's kind of been helpful to me because I've had a lot of support from comedians, big comedians giving me advice, you know, about things because I'm at the comedy store a lot. I'm hanging out and stuff a lot. But you're right, dude. I mean, for me on stage, I don't get up and say, "Oh, I started BMXing and da, 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 da," at all. I talk more
Yeah.
about injuries, and people can relate to that shit. And so, but we're still finding, for me at least, I'm still finding my way, but I don't got a whole lot of time to be finding my way. I need to find my way now. And that's why my mind's always on it, man.
Yeah.
I'm like always every day thinking about it. And I think that's the key. If anyone's listening, anything you want to do, you got to keep your mind in it. It's where you put your mind, man. It's like we said, hey guys should quit. Even that speech isn't good for you. Even
Yeah.
that speech
Exactly.
isn't good for you as a person. It's not going to help you get further at all because your mind's listening and it's holding you back. So anyone out there, man, seriously, like just start, bro. Just start. Just start doing, put your mind to it and your speech to it. You know what I mean? Because what you think and what you say is what you get usually. And so yeah, man. I mean, I think that, with comedy, it's just an extension of what we do, right? Like you're used to expressing yourself on a motorcycle and then in front of a crowd on the mic, and now you're doing comedy. It's all parallel, man. It really
Yep.
is. And I feel like we're lucky because when I go on tour with comedy, I'm gonna be able to go hit skate parks and shit and then do
Yeah.
comedy at night. Because I was thinking like comedians when they tour, they must just like sit around and do nothing all day.
Yeah.
Like you sit in a hotel room and then you like go do a half hour set or something or an hour 45 minutes at a club. What do you do all day? And so, no disrespect, I'm just thinking like, God, I'm glad I ride bikes because then I'll be like, call up the local scene, yo, what's up? Where's the spots? You know what I mean? Because that's
Yep.
the universal love you have with action sports that I don't know other communities offer that. Maybe they
No,
do.
we're
Maybe they don't.
definitely more of a brotherhood, and it's just like you said earlier, because of we're doing this stressful thing,
Yeah.
and then you respect the other person for also dealing with the injuries and the stress and the crashes.
Yep.
So you're just like, and then besides that, if you travel with these people now, not only are you doing all that, but you don't know anybody else. So it's like just your little group against, the world on the weekends, trying to make the show happen and hang out and not get in fights at the bar or whatever.
No, exactly. Yeah, it's just a universal thing, man. It's like there's nothing else like it. And so I can't wait to tour with comedy because I know, same with music, when I go play music or tour with music, it's like I got my bike. I could go explore. I don't have to pay for an
Yeah,
Uber. You know what I mean? I don't have to feel like if I leave the hotel, I'll start spending money. Not necessarily. I'm gonna go find a spot, shoot a
dude.
photo of riding.
And
It's
best
just it's
way to
it's
see a
it's cool,
city.
man. It's bike or skateboard or something,
Yeah, just out.
you know?
in it.
out, dude. Headphones, just like jamming around, dude. So, but yeah, man, that's it.
All right, well, let's wrap it up there. Where do you want everybody? Where can everybody find out all your happenings?
You know what? I'm mostly on Instagram, but my Instagram connects, to the Facebook, and then I do Twitter as well. But everything's just at Rick Thorne, and it's Thorne with an E. And then I have my website, which I need to update, but it's rickthorne.tv. But I'm mostly on the Instagram. Mostly, that's where you can find me. And then my band, Good Guys in Black, is the same at Good Guys in Black. And if you ever see us playing in your town, come check us out. We're a punk band. Check us out on Spotify, all that kind of stuff. You can find us pretty easily. And then, yeah, man, that's it. Then my podcast, The Rick Thorne Show. So, yeah,
Awesome.
just that's it, bro. Yeah, man.
Very good.
Cool.
Well, awesome chatting with you. And yeah, everybody,
Yeah.
thank you guys for listening. Please go to twowheelsoffreedom.com. Check out the Two Wheels to Freedom Fest, April 19th and 20th. Later, everybody.
Thanks, dude. Stay rad.